Dude, I lost. Episode 3 of Let's Argue is here, where I respond to your hot takes and your tough questions. Uh, let's hope it goes better than my attempts at playing Samurai Showdown on the Vita. Halo has the worst level design of any shooter, and it ruins the entire game. Um, Now I didn't ask for clarification on any of these submissions, because to me that's kind of the fun of the segment, that I have to figure out what the fuck you're saying. And in this instance, it's like, I would have to ask, is this just referring to the first game, or to the entire series? Because if it's the series as a whole, then hard no. Halo 3, for example, like the scale of it and the set pieces are so amazing. But like Halo 1, I can actually see where you're coming from a lot, because I kind of feel that way myself. Now, saying it's the worst is maybe a little bit hyperbolic. I'm sure I haven't even played the worst level design in a shooter, you know? I'm sure it exists, but it's not Halo, right? And like, I mean, you think of stuff like Turok 2, that's like, and I know they revamped it for the remaster on Xbox and PC. I haven't played that one yet, but I played it as a kid on N64, and it's like actively confusing and actively tedious, right? And that's not Halo. Halo is just very repetitive, and yeah, that's the thing with it, right? You just have these constant, like, it's not even just everything looks the same, but also the layouts are uninteresting. It's constant square rooms with like little archways here and there, and then they funnel enemies toward you. And yeah, even the enemy patterns repeat a lot. And I mean, there are sparks of greatness. Like, I mean, the very first, well, after the prologue, when you land on Halo, and then after that, the silent guitar part, like that's iconic, 10 out of 10, right? But everything else, I just remember this like one snowy place, and then a huge chunk of that is like interior stuff. It's so monotonous. And you have to think, in a shooter, like the mechanics, the way you attack the enemies and stuff is not that deep, right? I mean, it's not like a DMC where you can just lock the room. It's just a fucking circle, and that's fun, right? You can just mess around with the enemies, and that in itself is that engaging, right? In the shooter, you kind of want interesting level design to make you do interesting things, and to make you approach the enemies in different ways, and to make the enemies approach you in different ways. So like, just having, and that's the thing with Halo, right? The mechanics and the just like the core design of it and the enemy AI and all that holds up. But the level design also needs to be there. I think like I think the level design is pretty crucial in an FPS, just to make you move in interesting ways, because it's so much about movement, right? And I'd say Halo 2 has the same problem for like its second half. The first half is fine, great even, I'd say, but then after that it kind of plummets as well. I gotta be honest, I only played through Halo 1 and 2 once each, and I did like with podcasts on in the background, because it was just so repetitive. Halo 3 is where this series really came into its own for me, which is kind of ironic, right? Because like, yeah, to many it's like the last good Halo. I love Reach and ODST a lot as well. I'd say 4, like, does 4 have, like, 4 doesn't have level design. Fuck 4. And 5 is like whatever. 5 is just, 5 is just whatever. But yeah, I wish Bungie could just stop making Destiny, please. Spirit Tracks is a better Zelda game than Phantom Hourglass, and generally gets too much hate. I'm gonna level with you. Spirit Tracks is my least favorite Zelda game. I fucking hate it. I think it's terrible. I think it's like the polar opposite of what a Zelda game should be. It's not about adventure. It's not about like the sense of wonder. It's about fucking doing chores and having your hand held. The overworld in Spirit Tracks is literally, not figuratively, literally on rails. It's literally on rails. Like, you can't miss the point of Zelda harder than that, if you ask me. And like, the entire structure of the game is just doing chores for characters. And it sucks. It sucks. And the thing is, I don't know if your take is that hot. I think most people don't share my feelings on Spirit Tracks. I think most people actually kind of like that game. Again, maybe I'm completely off base, and most people also think it's better than Hourglass. I think you're just... I think maybe, I don't know, maybe you've read my takes on Zelda, and you disagree with me. I think the popular consensus probably would agree with you. But yeah, Hourglass is the most underrated Zelda game. Like, those two games could not be any more different, and it annoys me to death that people always sort of lump them together. Now, on that same note, the repetition of the Temple of the Ocean King from Hourglass is greatly exaggerated, and it's actually a pretty clever dungeon. Hard agree! The Temple of the fucking Ocean King is one of the best dungeons in the series. It's so fucking satisfying to feel yourself getting better at it. It's like overcoming these challenges and like getting better and better and like discovering all these little tricks you can use and improving your map more and more. And like the game is all about the map, right? And drawing the map, and that's so fun and so satisfying. And the dungeon taps into that so well. It's so good. How do people not think it's good? And like you can skip parts of it and stuff. It's so fucking clever. Nobody agrees with my Zelda opinions. But yeah, Hourglass, fucking top 6 Zelda game. Don't at me. Bayonetta 2 is good. Okay, for real. Half-Life 2 is gimmicky and boring. Hard agree. Now, in fairness, I did not play Half-Life 2 when it originally came out, so I can't say for sure how I would have felt about it at the time, and it really makes me think a lot about the idea of newness in games, of things being good or like exciting sheerly because of their novelty. It's an idea that I don't really believe in. I don't know if I ever liked something just because it was new, you know? Again, maybe I'm a hypocrite, right? Maybe that totally was the case. I'm just not admitting it. The fact of the matter is, I can retrospectively kind of see how a lot of the pacing and the structure and like the whole physics engine of Half-Life 2, how all that was kind of neat at the time, or how that blew people's minds, I should say. But now, the whole pace of the game just feels super disjointed to me. Weird focus on just loads of gimmicks. No strong mechanical foundation. Like, yeah, a lot of the encounters and set pieces are really based around just one, like, just each individual gimmick that they introduce for those set pieces, rather than just having good, solid gunplay. And it's not like the gunplay is below average or anything like that, but it's not remarkable either. And I'd say the same thing with the enemy design, the level design, and just worst of all is just the way the story is structured. Like, it's this very, like, there is plot, there is lore in this game, that there are characters that you're supposed to care about, but it's like told in this hyper unengaging way where the characters will like stand in a room and talk to each other and not involve you at all in the conversation. And in the meantime, you could just fucking, you know, run around and jump in boxes and crouch below Alex's ass and stuff like that, and nobody's gonna give a shit, nobody's gonna react to you. Like, the fact it's basically just a cutscene, but you can control the camera, and that, like, the reason, see, it seems forward-thinking to, like, never break the view of the player for cutscenes and shit, never interrupt. You're technically never interrupting gameplay, but, like, you need to think about why do we have camera angles and why do we have cuts in film. It's because the human eye gets bored of the same shot over a long period of time, you know? And that's what Half-Life 2 is. Like, if you want to be engaged in the story, there's no reason to, like, look away from the characters, right? But you just get so bored and so impatient because it's so blandly presented, and the characters are so fucking vague about what even happens. Like, you're not really a participant in the story. It's just everyone is kind of asking you to participate, and you don't even know what the fuck is going on. And what makes it sting is that Half-Life 1 is really fucking good. You're just, in that game, the plot is just what happens to you, you know? The backstory and the other characters don't matter. The plot is just you going from A to B, like trying to escape from this fucking hellish laboratory. And it's engaging because it's about you and you care, obviously, you care about getting out of there. And it's directly happening to you. And the set pieces that you move between, they remix the mechanics and the things that you already know. And they gradually build on each other. And like, I mean, you could say, oh, Half-Life 2 does the same thing kind of, but like, I think they just, in 2, again, it's been so long since I played it, right? So I could talk more intelligently about it, hopefully, if I played it now. But like, the impression that I got is that it's just gimmicks that, by their very nature, you can't really build that much on top of. Like, the gravity gun is the one exception, but then you have the fucking, the motor, the jet ski or whatever it is, and I don't even remember the rest, but yeah. So Half-Life 2, I don't know, man. I never even played the episodes, the expansions, because I just wasn't that interested. Again, it really makes me think of this idea of newness. Like, I mean, a lot of people play it now and they still enjoy it, you know? Maybe it's just me, maybe it's just rubbing me the wrong way, maybe it's just not my kind of pacing, I don't know. But like, yeah, I'm not into it. I definitely agree with this comment. It's dumb that DMC5/Bayonetta encourage you to stay in the air when your grounded moveset is so much deeper / better fleshed out. Wonderful 101 lets you utilize your full moveset on the ground or in the air, and that's why it's the most Kino of all. So, second part, hard agree. In Bayonetta, I mean, I think your moveset is almost exactly the same. See, it's gonna be really embarrassing if I'm wrong on that, because Bayonetta is my favorite game, right? Everyone knows this, Bayonetta is my favorite game of all time. But I'm pretty sure, like, you have Beast Within on the ground, and Crow Within in the air. So that's just, they're just replacements. And Crow Within can actually do more than Beast Within. So, but then you can do, I think you can do basically anything in the air that you can do on the ground. Like, you can do Stiletto, but you get Afterburner kick instead. I think you can do the Stinger. Like, and you can transition from an air combo into a ground combo, you know? You can offset into that. So like, Bayonetta is the exact same, I think, between those two. And then with DMC, I mean, the movesets just complement each other, you know? Like, you have fewer pause combos and shit like that in the air. Yeah, usually it's just limited to one. But like, that's part of the design in DMC as well, that it is hard to stay in the air, you know? But it's also incentivized because it's way safer. Yeah, if you had more moves that were easier to pull off in the air, then that would kind of defeat the point, right? So that's why I appreciate where you're coming from, but I think the games, they make sense the way they are. Doom 2016 was pretty boring. Focusing solely on combat is a mistake when the combat itself is about as simplistic as the one in Doom 2. I disagree with the first sentence, personally. I think Doom 2016 is hella fun. I think it's really cool. I love it. But I actually agree with the justification. Doom was not a game where you, like, walk into a room and then it locks behind you and then you fight for 10 minutes like in DMC. You know, it wasn't like that. It was a lot more fluid. It was, the exploration and the combat were very intertwined. You were fighting enemies while you were exploring, and the exploration was a huge fucking part of those games. Whereas in 2016, it's completely optional, right? And like, it is the exact way that modern games do it, where it's just like some fucking weird side path hidden away. And like, I'm not saying they're not well hidden, but like, it feels kind of artificial. You know, it feels like, oh, someone just put this there because we need to meet the ratio of secrets for this level. Whereas in Doom 1 and 2, well, to be fair, I haven't played that much of 2. I finished 1. I haven't played that much of 64 either. So, like, we're talking about those 3 games, I guess. And Doom 1 is the only one I finished. In those games, every level was designed to be a labyrinth and was designed to be a geographical challenge, you know? And that's completely missing from Doom 2016. It's more about just checking every wall, even when you're doing the optional stuff. So I can see how it doesn't really in that sense, capture the spirit of Doom. And in fairness, it seems like that's something they're aware of with Eternal, because I am seeing way more, like, I'm killing enemies as I'm going, as I'm platforming and stuff. So that could be cool. I can actually see also why they made this change, because they wanted to make the encounters more substantial. Like in Doom original, you fire your shotgun and the normal soldiers or even the imps are just dead instantly, right? Or maybe after 2 shots, and that fits the pace of those games. But they wanted to make it a little bit more substantial, just have the enemies last a little bit longer. And when you're doing that, you probably need the combat rooms, the DMC combat rooms. So yeah, I don't know what kind of balance they're gonna strike with Eternal. It's pretty interesting. I'm saying it's about as simplistic as the combat in Doom 2. Maybe it's a little bit hyperbolic, because I think the jumping and the way the weapons are balanced, like the fact that the projectiles are actual 3D projectiles, you know? I think all of that adds a lot. So you can have, for example, the Cacodemon, right? That's very dangerous up close, so that means maybe shotgun, not a good idea. But then also they dodge your rocket launcher, so that's probably not a good idea either. So then you have to fall back on either the machine gun or the assault rifle or the plasma rifle. And then depending on the kind of ammo you have, you may be like, okay, maybe I'm gonna kill this other enemy first. Like, you are thinking strategically about your weapons and about the enemies in the arena, and I think you do so more than you did in the older Doom games. Like, I think the change is pretty significant. I think the combat is pretty significantly more fun to me. In Doom 1 original, the combat is as robust as it needs to be. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but to me, the combat in 2016 is like, it's engaging enough that for me it stands on its own. I would play a Bloody Palace with Doom 2016 combat, you know? But I can still see where you're coming from. So yeah. Okay, I'm too lazy to pull this comment up on my 3DS, but essentially the concept of it was Tales of combat has deeper mechanics, or is deeper than even some action games. And I'm not the best authority to speak on this, because I've only played Vesperia, and I didn't even finish it. I want to go back to it at some point. I played it on the 360, but like, just from what I've seen, yeah, I can see where this is coming from. It's not a very like, the take is phrased in a way that's not very specific, right? I mean, if you're saying some action games, then that's not saying much, right? But like, it's probably deeper. It has more going on than a lot of people probably give it credit for. See, for example, I know in Vesperia, in the PS3 version, and now in the new remaster, they added in this thing where if you press R1, which is the free walk button, so I mean, most of the Tales games usually work on a 2D plane, but then if you hold R1, you can move around freely. And they made it so in the PS3 version that cancels any action, and that you have to think they specifically put that in, and that's very interesting. Like, just the kinds of weird little quirks and little touches that they give their games, I find very fascinating. And yeah, when I played Vesperia, I could tell, like, the way arts sort of cancel into each other, and like the way you can't just randomly combo them into each other. You kind of have to have a plan. I did find the MP system a little bit restrictive, if I remember correctly. I don't know. Yeah, I need to play it now to see how I feel about it. But yeah, I think you're onto something. And like, I want to play Fantasia as well, because just doing that with 2D sprites sounds very interesting to me. Like, this whole idea of comboing enemies and juggling them when they're sprites seems kind of cool. Obviously, it's got nothing on Buster's Bad Dream for the GBA, if we're talking like juggling enemies. But yeah, I think it's probably like almost as good as Buster's Bad Dream, you know? Yeah. Alright, that is episode 3 of Let's Argue in the Bag. If you couldn't tell, I recorded all of these in bulk, because I got way more submissions than I expected. Support me on Patreon if you can, if you want to. Patreon.com/WonderMagenta gets you 2 extra bonus videos every month. Loads of written posts as well. And it lets me do cool shit. So check it out!